My name is Craig. I'd been married for 7 years. And I'll be honest, the last 2 years of it felt like living with a roommate. The spark had gone out years ago, but I stayed, hoping that something might come back. But what finally ended it? A single text message from Vegas. Here is how everything happened. I met Cindy when I was in my late 20s. We crossed paths at a local networking event. I wasn't expecting much, but we spoke for a while at this event and exchanged business cards, and I figured that'd be the end of it. But it wasn't. A few days later, she reached out. We started texting, then calling, and before long, we were grabbing lunch during work breaks, chatting on weekends, and meeting up after hours. We were enjoying the process. It didn't take long before feelings started forming. So when we started dating, we didn't waste years trying to figure it out. We didn't hesitate. Within a relatively short time, we tied the knot. The early years of marriage were good. We had fun. We supported each other. We planned for the future, like teammates. We weren't rich, but we were stable. It felt like we were building a life with a solid foundation. But there was one thing we wanted, being able to have kids. We tried, and tried, then tried some more. Hope followed by letdowns. And each failed attempt chipped away at us in a way we didn't talk about out loud. And instead of leaning into each other, we both consciously, or not, started leaning into work. Cindy started picking up more projects. I took on more responsibilities. We were still in the same house, but our heads were in different spaces. But the truth is, we were drifting. Slowly and quietly. Until one day, it felt like we were just roommates with rings on. The emotional connection that once came so easily began to fade. Not all at once, but little by little. Year after year, the warmth started to disappear, replaced by routine and obligation. And even though I didn't want to admit it at the time, something fundamental between us had started to break. By the time our marriage hit the 7-year mark, the change was obvious. Cindy had become a stranger in the house we both called home. I started noticing her work hours stretching longer and longer. It became routine, as she was always working late, always out of town. She'd say it was for conferences, networking events, and team retreats. It was always something work-related, but I couldn't help but question it. I'm in the corporate world too. I know how rare and expensive those trips are. Yet, according to Cindy, it was constant. Still, I tried to believe her. And more than that, I wanted to do something to pull us back together. So, I thought maybe if she wasn't stressing over bills or feeling overwhelmed, she'd have more energy to focus on us again. That's when I decided to take over most of the financial responsibilities. I started funding her lifestyle outright. I picked up the slack in every area I could. For a short while, it looked like I might have been right. She began coming home a little earlier. She was even more physically present, and I started to feel some hope. But that hope didn't last long. Just as quickly as she shifted toward home, she shifted right back to her old pattern. The late nights resumed. The out-of-town trips stacked up again. When I asked her about it, she'd get defensive fast. One evening, I asked her if we could talk, if maybe we needed to figure out how to reconnect. She looked up and asked, "What is your problem? How else do you want us to reconnect?" I couldn't respond. From that point on, everything between us got worse. It felt like a transaction. Our conversations became purely logistical. Anything deeper than that, off limits. If I ever brought up emotions or the way we'd been growing apart, she'd shut it down. I suggested a date night once a week. She said she was too busy. I proposed therapy. She rolled her eyes. Even when I waited for her to have time, planned things for weekends when she said she'd be free, she'd still say she was tired or not in the mood. I can't lie, it hurt. Every rejection felt like another door closing between us. Then she started sleeping in the guest room after any minor disagreement. At first, I tried to be understanding, but eventually, I couldn't ignore the thought that there might be someone else. I had no proof, but I've lived enough to know that intimacy doesn't just disappear. A woman doesn't shut down every physical and emotional connection in a marriage unless she's finding that connection elsewhere. So, one random Tuesday evening, Cindy tells me her company is planning a team-building retreat in Las Vegas. A whole week, Saturday to Friday. I stared at her like a full week in Vegas, of all places. It didn't sit right with me. I mean, what kind of company completely shuts down its operations for that long just to build team spirit? I wasn't trying to start a fight. I just asked the obvious. What kind of retreat is this? Is it a conference or something else? Right then, her whole demeanor shifted. She snapped back like I had accused her of planning a bank heist. "Why do you always have to ruin everything?" she said, all defensive. "Are you saying I'm lying? You think I'm making this up?" I kept my voice level and just said, "Cindy, I'm your husband. It's not crazy for me to want to understand what you're doing and why your company thinks it's normal to party in Vegas for a week." But she wasn't having it. She flared up again, even more heated this time. That's when she dropped the line that stopped me cold. "I'm still in this marriage because I choose to be. But you're pushing me. You keep on like this, and I'll end it and take everything from you." I sat there in silence, watching the woman I married talk to me like she was done. She left for the retreat that Saturday. I knew from her earlier outburst that the retreat was supposed to last until the following Friday. But I still don't believe her. And as the house fell silent, I felt peace and quiet, for the first time in a while. But even then, I still didn't take her divorce statement seriously. I figured she was just blowing off steam with the divorce threat, like she'd done during past arguments. I didn't realize just how wrong I was. So on Thursday evening, the day before my wife comes home, I was sitting on the couch at home, just winding down from work. Then my phone buzzed. It was a message from Cindy. When I opened it, man, my brain just stalled. There was a photo of Cindy standing next to some guy I'd never seen before. They were both smiling in front of what clearly looked like a courthouse or a marriage registry. And right under that image, her message, "Just married my coworker. You're pathetic, by the way, for not calling me all through this retreat." For a few seconds, everything around me just faded out. I didn't even know what emotion to settle on. Betrayal? Confusion? Disgust? It all just came crashing down at once. Then I replied with one word: cool. Because in that moment, I realized I was done. Then I took a screenshot of the message, just in case she tried to deny it later, and I called the one person I knew I could count on for sound advice, my old college buddy, Ryan. He's a family lawyer and one of the sharpest legal minds I know. After showing him the message, he just said, "Okay, let's talk tonight. Don't make any sudden moves until we speak." That phone call was the beginning of the end for Cindy and me. By midnight, I knew I was done sitting around waiting for her to come back to her senses and hoping she would wake up one day and suddenly remember how to love me. The first thing I did was freeze the joint bank account tied to her card. I didn't care if she was stranded or needed cash to party with her coworker husband. I also suspended every shared credit card. If she wanted to play games, she could do it on her own dime, not mine. Then I booked a locksmith and scheduled them to come out first thing in the morning to change the locks on the house. The next morning, Friday, she flew back home. I didn't know her exact arrival time, but I later found out she was already at the airport. Apparently, she tried to pay for something with our family card and realized nothing worked. I was already at the office when she arrived at the house and found the locks changed. I wasn't home, but I got a call from the local police department not long after. One of the officers politely asked me if I could come to the house and open the door because my wife was outside and said she couldn't get in. When I came around, I told them calmly, I own that house solely. My name's the only one on the deed. She left voluntarily for a week. After what she pulled in Vegas, I didn't feel safe or comfortable letting her back in without a conversation. I'm protecting myself, that's all. The officers were surprisingly understanding. They didn't force entry. They listened. They looked at the documents I had, showing I was the sole owner of the property. Then they told her that it was a civil matter and needed to be handled through the courts. But she lost it. She was raging on the front lawn like a reality show meltdown. She even started telling the police. It was a joke wedding. We were drunk. It's Vegas. I didn't bother arguing. I didn't need to. I just calmly told the officers, my lawyer will be in touch if you need me. Please ask her to leave. To be honest, I didn't know what to feel hearing her say it's a prank. On one hand, part of me wanted to believe that she was telling the truth. But the bigger part of me was done with the guessing, the passive-aggressive moods, the manipulation, the cold silences, and the constant walking on eggshells in my own home. Her joke didn't feel like a joke. It felt like a slap. And even if she had been drunk, who goes and legally marries someone as a joke, and then has the audacity to mock their own husband about it? That week, I sat down with my lawyer and we filed for divorce on the grounds of irreconcilable differences and potential infidelity. At this point, I didn't need hard proof that she was cheating. Her own words, the picture from Vegas, and the behavior leading up to it were enough. I also asked for full separation of assets. Of course, Cindy didn't take it lying down. She got herself a lawyer almost immediately. But what she didn't expect was that we weren't bluffing. My lawyer contacted the Clark County Recorder's Office in Nevada to confirm if that so-called wedding she had with her coworker actually meant anything legally. And surprise, there it was. Her coworker's name is Jared. And here's where it gets even messier. Jared was already married, too. Married. So now we weren't just talking about some drunken lapse in judgment. We were looking at bigamy, a serious criminal offense. My lawyer didn't waste time. He reported everything to the district attorney and submitted all supporting documents, screenshots, the certificate, and everything else we had. That triggered an official criminal investigation against Cindy. Both of them were contacted by authorities. This was a felony-level investigation. In family court, I was granted temporary spousal financial protection. That meant she couldn't suddenly drain our remaining accounts or sabotage my finances while the divorce played out. I was also granted full use of the house, which made sense. I owned it. On top of that, the judge issued an order to freeze all joint assets so nothing could be hidden or moved around in the background. That alone gave me the breathing room I needed. Then came the criminal court proceedings. Cindy was officially charged with bigamy. She tried everything to spin the story, told the court it was all a joke, that she thought it was a fake ceremony, said they were drunk, didn't know what they were signing, and that those chapels in Vegas are all for entertainment. But the prosecution had receipts, literally. They brought forward the signed legal marriage certificate. They even pulled a hotel receipt showing that she and Jared checked in under the name Mr. and Mrs. After months of dragging through the legal system and a whole lot of waiting, Cindy's case finally reached a conclusion. The court didn't take her explanation lightly. The judge didn't see it as a harmless mistake. It was treated as what it actually was, a second illegal marriage while she was still legally bound to me. Eventually, the verdict came in guilty. Now, before anyone thinks she ended up in orange overalls behind bars, let me explain. The court decided not to hand her jail time, probably because this was her first offense, and they figured the public humiliation and legal mess were punishment enough. Instead, she was sentenced to probation, slapped with a $10,000 fine, and ordered to complete community service. It wasn't a prison sentence, but it definitely wasn't a slap on the wrist either. That felony record was going to follow her around like a shadow. And the consequences didn't stop at the courtroom door. The moment word got out about her conviction, things spiraled fast at her job. Her employer didn't want to be associated with a convicted felon, especially not in a corporate environment. HR didn't waste time. She was let go almost immediately. They also confirmed that the company never took people to a retreat. Well, it no longer mattered to me. As for me, my side of things wrapped up far cleaner. I was granted a full divorce. No alimony, no financial obligation to her, no emotional strings left to tug. The court recognized her actions as a betrayal, and that played a role in their decision. I kept the house, my savings were protected, and what mattered most to me, I got to walk away without being drained dry. So in the end, her little Vegas stunt cost her everything she thought she had power over. Looking back now, I honestly don't think I could have asked for a cleaner exit. After many years, I got my freedom handed to me on a silver platter, wrapped in one ridiculous Vegas decision. The truth is, Cindy's little stunt was the best thing she could have done for me. That single moment of ego or impulse or whatever the hell it was gave me the green light to stop being her doormat. That Vegas marriage opened the door for me to take legal action without looking like the villain. It allowed me to protect my assets, keep my home, and walk away without being dragged through months or years of legal games. Sometimes I still ask myself, what was she thinking? Did she believe I would panic and beg her to come home? That I'd grovel, forgive, and try to win her back after a public slap in the face like that? Honestly, I'll never know what was going through her head. And I've made peace with that. All I know is this: she gave me an exit, and I took it. It doesn't get better than this during a divorce.